All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm excited for our next speaker here, who is Toni de la Fuente, and he is the creator of an open source tool called Prowler. And he's also a security consultant at a small company you might have heard of, AWS. But probably more importantly for tonight is Toni is based in Spain, and he is joining us at 2 a.m. his time. So thank you very much for making the time for us, Toni, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, I'm not going to speak up because I have neighbors downstairs. So hopefully you can understand me. Yeah, but this is the typical time of the night that we the security folks, we like to do stuff, right? But yeah, it's a little bit late here. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be a 30-minute sessions, well, 20 something minutes a session where I want to tell you a little bit about the travel that I started when I first released the first version of Prowler till today. So what I want to give you is an overview of the things that I have that worked out for me, things that should have known, and also what I have learned. In the case that you want to do your own tool, because there are many tools needed or and ideas. Um, so hopefully that can help you with this with your own journey at this. So what is Prowler and why I'm here talking about Prowler? Well, Prowler is an open source tool that performs different things. I mean, it tells you what you have correctly configured or not in your AWS cloud in one or multiple accounts. And I started writing Prowler to create or to give others the option to do their own assessments. So they didn't know what to do or for where to start hardening your account. And I wrote a very small script to perform assessments in AWS. Then I realized that when Prowler was growing, other people was using also Prowler for incident response. For example, if you have an incident, you run Prowler and you may get what has been the attack vector. Or if you have exposed instances or different type of resources that could have security misconfiguration. And also for continuous monitoring. So you can run Prowler from time to time and get the differences. And if you get something failed, some resource that is misconfigured, etc., you can get an alert or whatever you need to do, right? Send an email or just to have a dashboard. Also compliance helper, because people love compliance and companies and helps you to have more or less an idea about what to do to be compliant with many different security frameworks. It covers more than 160 controls, what I call in Prowler checks. In many different types, from IAM to databases, encryption address, encryption in transit, or in internet exposure. It looks for secrets in your code or in variables, etc. And also it shows the output of Prowler in text in your console with some colors, and also CSV, JSON, ASFF is the AWS security funding format, which is the format that works with Security Hub, HTML reports, and JUnix XML as well. So as you can see here, as I said, it's open source and it's free. To put you a little bit in context why I'm here, and I thought it was going to be interesting to talk about my journey with Prowler, is, well, Prowler was the first release was in June 2016, and yesterday it was to 2,700 stars in GitHub. Let's say that we can manage stars as popularity, more or less, in GitHub from an open source nowadays. And there's other open source security tools for AWS, very popular that you may consider using it, but probably you know them, which are Cloud Mapper, Cloud Custodian, Scout Suite, Cloud Exploit, and Policy Centric. You can see there. And also Security Monkey, which is deprecated. It was one of the most popular open source projects in security. So in this case, with Prowler is the project with more contributors of this top 5, let's say that way, which is one of the best things of Prowler, the community, because it has grown a lot in the last years thanks to the community, the new ideas, feedback, and improvements, etc. And also, this is more or less in the last 10 days. I took this screenshot the other day, on the 19th. As you see, it has a lot of users, and you can, of course, it gives me also a lot of work because I have to review and take care of the fixes and the new features, etc. Which is something that I want to talk a little bit later. So let's start with the things that worked out, and I consider that was good to be there or to do, which is, for example, first of all, be your first customer. So of course, I wrote Prowler for me because I needed that. I needed to know what to do when it comes to hardening AWS accounts, but also for the team where I was working by that time. So I knew every moment what I had to do, and enhancements, fixes, etc. So I tried to write documentation from the very beginning, and documentation almost for to allow my mom running Prowler, and that was very important to have a long or clear documentation, because when people ask you what to do, you can always point them to documentation instead of writing a lot of things. I made the decision of using the CIS for AWS benchmark, and it was very good starting point for sure, because it was CIS sets very important baseline. It's not let's say top range of hardening, but at least is good enough. I mean, if everybody would have CIS, the world, the internet will be more secure for sure. And I started probably with the CIS, which are 45 checks now, and there are more than 120 additional, so in total 160. So, but CIS was good idea. If you want to do controls or hardening, etc., consider using CIS. And this is a good one. So you don't have to be proud of the code. So whatever you have, if you are writing a tool, that is helpful for you, maybe it may be helpful for others. You don't have to be proud. And if you see the code of Prowler, you understand what I mean, right? I mean, it's not that bad, but if you have to be so happy with what you have done, you never would make it public. Keep it easy. So I wanted everybody to run it. You won't believe me, but there is a lot of people they struggle with Python. PIP dependencies, installing all the different packages, or with other programming languages. So I wanted to have something easy based on the CLI that everybody with a minimum knowledge of the AWS CLI could run Prowler. I think that was a good idea in terms of having other type of people, other type of users like me, that I come from security, but for more the sysadmin side of security than the developer side of security. I'm not saying that with Python is a bad idea at all, but I wanted to keep it easy with less dependencies. Of course, with the time, as Prowler was growing, I was adding more dependencies to do more stuff, which is normal, right? Listen to the community. That was also something that I always try to do, asking for feedback, no matter what is the size of the guy in the other side, right? If it's a small company, it's a big company, I've done features or improvement for really, really big companies in the internet, and also for people that just needed something or ask me or give me some feedback. And also I'm not sure if I do it all the time, but I try to be thankful and give kudos to the people that has implemented cool stuff in Prowler, or give send fixes, etc. So it's important if you start your own project to have a good amount of patience and empathy, because not everybody knows what you know, of course, and you have to be on top of, trying to help or everybody, no matter who they are, right? And move fast. This is very interesting when it comes to open source security projects in AWS, because AWS is releasing new features, services, etc. And if you are able to release also new controls as soon as you can, people is going to be more engaged, right? I try to do it. If I'm doing something outside of the work and I think, okay, this could be a good check or an integration, I can come back and I write a new check in minutes sometimes. So it's a good idea to move fast, but have a life as well. So try to think that nothing is written in stone, that this is open source, that you are not charging for this, it's free. So you can enjoy the freedom of open source instead of having somebody telling you, hey, you have to do this or that. So enjoy the open source part of all of this stuff. Okay, that was good. Now, things that I should have known. When I started, I thought, well, with the CIS, there are so many IAM related controls, which are based on the on the credentials report that you can get from the console. But as long as you evolve the tool and you learn how AWS work, you realize how the APIs evolve, and you get pretty much consistent type of answers from all the services, but with some differences. And to that exercise of learning the services and the response from those services when you ask, easy to get the firewall, I mean the security groups configuration or NACOs or whatever, is not the same as you are doing the query to Redshift, for example. I mean, you need to understand the different type of services and how they evolve. Sometimes the response from the APIs are not the same when you don't have permissions, for example. So these kind of things took me time to realize and to understand, and write properly or better checks, security controls. So use the latest CLI and Boto 3 versions. Of course, if you are using the latest CLI, that also installs the latest Boto 3 as a dependency. So since Prowler is based on the CLI, that was very important, because if you are writing a check for a service that is new, you need the last version of the CLI. I have had so many issues and trying things that didn't work, and I didn't know why until I upgraded the CLI, the version 1 or the version 2, because Prowler should work with both. So if you do scripting with the CLI, etc., make sure also you are using the latest version. The upgrade way, it depends if you are using the version 1 or version 2 as well. This one, I like this one because I sometimes I think I should have done it in Python from the beginning and start really learning Python, not just doing some small things. But you know what? I think Prowler has so many contributors because it's written with the CLI with Bash. It has a lot of tricks with Bash and queries, filters with the CLI, but people can go to Prowler to see how that is written and learn some type of queries, very advanced queries from the CLI. I think that was a good thing, and I didn't know that was going to be that good. also a trade-off between using the CLI with Bash and Boto 3 directly, by Python. It was the to reach the limits, the API limits is harder when you are using the CLI because everything is sequential with Bash, unless, of course, you can do parallel stuff. But out of the box with Prowler, it does everything sequential, so you don't reach the limits in the API limits. And, and also, it was very good in terms of authentication because wherever you can authenticate the CLI, which is pretty much all the nowadays all the ways of we authenticate with the API, is going to work out of the box also in Prowler. So that was a good a good decision, I think. Of course, with Boto 3 is kind of similar, but it has some other peculiarities. Of course, in terms of speed, having something in Python directly will have been faster. But also, I could have done queries and save the queries in JSON and then do the query internally, or to cache those queries internally, like the way that Cloud Mapper works, or Scout Suite, or many other tools that they download the response from the API, and then you do the query and generate the report. So there are so many things. I wanted a tool that gave me the answer as soon as possible. I wanted to know, hey, how many databases are in RDS with the encryption disabled? And I wanted just one command to get that. And that without having to query the API, download the API, etc. Then but something that I should have known, of course, is that parsing IAM policies and resource policies is tough in Bash. So you have to do a lot of different Bash tricks, and with Python or JQ would have been easier. Of course, now a lot of things are done in JQ in Prowler, but I've tried to normalize data with AWK, with grep, with set, and all that stuff. Is crazy. It's crazy. You see some checks are a little bit crazy in terms of Bash tricks. So I could have done that much better for sure in Python. I have done also very bad test because of the speed. Also, when if you do speed, you don't have. I'm not going to say quality, because at the end of the day, Prowler works, but it could be with better quality if I do all the test all the time. And this is something that I haven't done very well, and it's a check mark to improve for sure. So the versioning and tagging and branch management is something also that I have to improve. I should have known how to do that better. I have done other open source projects, but let's say that, of course, my background is not from the developer side, and I struggle a little bit to understand the versioning, tagging, branch management, Git, and all that stuff. And the automation and the output formats, the way that the resources are shown in the outputs, in the reports. Talking to people, I realized that I should have done different way this type of outputs, showing the ARN. That will help also in other type of reports. I should have added the severity earlier. Now all the checks comes with severity. It's not exposed in all the reports, only in Security Hub integration, but severity is something that I should have done before. Not only fail or pass or info, but also the severity itself. Yeah, in terms of project management, it's better to spend a little bit every day than 8 hours from time to time, or at the entire day from time to time, because it's tiring. So, and manage your own time and do your own other investigation. So I have realized that I love Prowler so much. I can do a lot of things with Prowler, but the time that I invest in Prowler, I don't do for other things. So this is something I have to learn to manage better, probably. Things that I have learned. So people love compliance. As soon as I started adding some GDPR or other stuff, and also the community added like ISO 27000, HIPAA, and many others, I have seen also the usage of Prowler growing. So if you are writing a tool, yeah, consider using adding compliance. ASFF, which is the format that you send data to Security Hub. Of course, that wasn't available in 2016, but it was when Security Hub released the format, I realized that was a very good format for security findings in AWS. It's very comprehensive and it's growing. I like it. Consider it for your own tools. There is a big community eager of open source tools, so there is a lot of room for more tools and also to improve the existing ones. Every time that, so I wasn't aware of that, but I have seen also big companies that they look at what we do in the open source space of security for AWS, and this is pretty cool. So that there are so many ways to help the open source community and to improve the tools. And also, I have realized that the users will do things with your tool that you never imagine. Of course, when I wrote Prowler was for just my use case, but I have seen so different use cases and usage, or and, redirecting the output, doing things with the output this way. I mean, many different usages, and that was it's great to see how people is using what you have done and learn from there to think in the future of the tool. Automation and output formats. I started with just the console because I thought that was enough, but I realized because somebody from SANS gave me wrote the extension of CSV. The CSV output was written by Mr. Security in SANS. And that was great. I realized that was important because you could do many other things. That was back in 2017 probably. So yeah, Ben Allen, thanks Eric. So I realized that was so good addition for Prowler, and from there we started adding many other output formats like JSON, etc. And also I learned that it's important, despite you think that your tool is very easy, it's important to explain to people how to deploy the tool better than just run this command or run whatever. So to do more automation in that part. So that is why I added some CloudFormation templates to do some stuff in the repo. The remediation is something that I never done in Prowler. Despite some controls, they have some comments with how to remediate it. But to do auto remediation, that will be awesome. It takes a lot of time to write all the remediation, and it's kind of dangerous because Prowler only reads and lists and get information that doesn't change anything. But it would be good. And also integration with many different tools, that every time that I added a new integration or wrote about integration with different tools, I have seen integrations with Splunk and Elasticsearch, etc. People loves it. Let me go a little bit faster. Yeah, this was some tips and tools. The ARN partitions, the Amazon Resource Name partitions. This is important. The ARN is the unique identifier of any resource in AWS. So you may know that there is only the AWS partition, which is the global regions, the region in Ireland, the region in Virginia, the region in different places of the world. But there are other partitions, like in China, the AWS-CN and the GovCloud, as you can see here. So if you write your tool and you add these options, you are going to be almost or pretty much compatible with all those regions. It depends on the services. Not in all regions are all services, but this is important. I added this feature to Prowler a few months ago, and has been used, of course, extensively. So don't think only in the global regions. Think beyond. If you are writing your tool, this git command helped me a lot to really, despite I don't do this very often, but With this, you get at least in the last 5 months of all the changes in the repo, the commits, etc. With Bash iPhone X, you can debug everything in Bash, which is very helpful. And when you do code with many people, or you have a lot of contributors, this Git lens for VS Code or Codium is so helpful. In this case, we can see here you leave the cursor of your mouse in a line, and you see who made that change and when, and a link to GitHub. So for me, it's probably one of the best discoveries of the year. And I'm going to finish with an announcement. So this is something that is already in Prowler. So Security Hub integration. If you run this command with Q, you are sending only fails. With S and JSON SFF, you are sending the ASFF format of the output from Prowler to Security Hub in the region where you have Security Hub enabled. But with this default integration, the current integration, you get in your report personal, the company personal and product default, which is fine, but you cannot filter if you have the other integrations, right? So the announcement is the official Security Hub integration in Prowler from October 30th. So at the end of this month, it's going to be supported in the global regions, in China and in the GovCloud. So you have to go to the integrations in Security Hub, enable Prowler. And of course, you have to have Security Hub enable, etc. And enable Prowler and send your findings from Prowler, from whatever you run Prowler to your Security Hub in your favorite region. And you will have a company and product called Prowler. You can filter by Prowler, and also you can create your own insights using Prowler, in the dashboard, which I think is pretty interesting and very good news, because Prowler is the second open source and free tool that is integrated officially in Security Hub. Is free. So despite you see here, purchase a subscription of this product, you don't have to purchase anything. You just have to clone the repo. And that's all. That's all what I wanted to discuss today. Hopefully is helpful for you guys.